The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Bumblefoot. Bumblefoot.
Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys. They let us think that we're big boys. They let us make a lot of noise, but women rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. For you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
Alright, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Oh, the deeper I fall.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
The password is...
Alright.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye-bye.
Please take your seat above us. We will be able to prepare for pickup. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and lift off.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the deeper I fall. Yeah, the deeper
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's great to have you along for the ride on this Tuesday, October 17th, Wednesday, October 18th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. Hope you had a great day and night. We are live right here in the Great White North, on top of the mountains in Spaced Out Radio headquarters in central British Columbia, as we are here for you 7 days a week. We welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of the Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, at over 160 countries around the world. We are also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Like our music? Get your horns up for Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy and Sons of Apollo. Bumblefoot is the official music of SOR. Hey, we're all over social media. Why don't you join us? How about on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio? Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States. TalkStream Live. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, if you want to take part in this show, you got to do me a favor. You got to sign into one of the chat rooms, either on Revolution Radio, Spreaker, the UPRN chat room, or on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. Or if you're on Twitter, just use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I'll connect with you live there as well. Now, if you head to our website, for $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Travelers member. You can also shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Read the Encounter online. Check out my latest blog, and if you've had a sighting you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Also, you can check out great video viewing from UFO Seekers Tim Doyle and Contact TV's Leslie Mitchell Clark. The spiritual world is one many of us question, usually on a daily basis. Whether it's religion or our own karmic balance, there seems to be a continual tug-of-war of what it is spiritually that's correct, or what continues to keep that black cloud hovering over us. Do our signs have anything to do with the path we are on? Astrology is the study of the influence that distant cosmic objects, usually stars and planets, have on human lives. And tonight, we have one of the best in North America joining us to fill us in on whether or not our own personal stars are aligned. Jacy Nova is part of a popular celebrity website called astrochicks.com. Jacy and her team provide cosmic perspective on the latest pop culture and urban entertainment news. And tonight, for the next 3 hours, she's going to join us and see how Spaced Out Radio is cosmically aligned. Jacy, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. Very excited to have you on. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. That was quite an intro. I appreciate that.
Well, we try to impress around here, you know. I'm not going to lie. I'm having a bad hair day. I'm having a bad hair day.
You're having a bad hair day?
I am. I'm in that uncomfortable stage. You see, I've never grown my hair before. Never grown it out. So now that at 44 years old, when I'm going through my midlife crisis here, I've decided to grow out my hair for the first time. And you know, it's in this frizzy thing that just is uncontrollable and unmanageable, and I don't know what to do. But that's okay. I'm battling through it.
Well, you sound great.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Let's learn a little bit about you, if you don't mind, because I always like to take some time to introduce you as the guest to our audience. How did you get involved with astrology, spirituality, and everything that goes along with intuition?
Well, I've had a very interesting life. I had my first near-death experience at the age of 4. I was at a church retreat in Oregon down at the beach, and we were in this cove, and I had slipped and fell in the cove, and I was drowning. And I had an out-of-body experience. There were all these high school students around and all of our counselors and teachers, but for some reason, no one noticed me basically drowning. And I saw myself standing outside. I was standing next to my teacher, and I was trying to get her attention, my spirit, because I could see myself drowning. And this young boy, this 16-year-old boy, happened to see me, and he swooped me up in his arms, and I went unconscious. They were able to revive me, and subsequently I came home. My mother was obviously very distraught, and after that moment, I psychically could pick up on things, on individuals, on situations that were about to happen. I remember when I was about 5, we had this big Christmas party at our house, and my grandfather, was Norwegian, and he was very all about prim and proper and having manners, and he would always want me to come to the door and help him greet the guests. And there was one particular guest that had come to the door, and I can still remember this man to this day. He was probably in his 30s, and he was in this black and white suit, and he was a handsome guy, but there was just something about his energy. It was very dark, and my grandfather was like, shake his hand and say hello to him, and I was like, no, I wouldn't do it. And my grandfather kept insisting for me to shake his hand, and I started crying, and I ran into the dining room, and I hid under the table, and I was crouched behind a chair, and this man came up, and he was leaning down trying to shake my hand. And my mom was like, why is she so upset? I was crying, and I kept saying, he's a bad man. He's a bad man. And my grandparents put me to bed early. They were upset with me. And then it was about 3 weeks later, that man that was at our party was arrested for killing 2 women. And after that moment, my grandfather said, if JC doesn't like somebody, you need to pay attention. And ever since then, my mom encouraged my ability. I started studying astrology at 8, also reading tarot cards, and then I really became fascinated with life after death at the age of 13. I was kind of like Wednesday from the Addams Family. I've had a very interesting life and have continued to develop my psychic abilities. I've had some other near-death experiences, and here we are now.
What was that like when you heard your grandfather saying to you, if my darling little granddaughter doesn't like someone, we're going to listen to that feeling now? Because as kids, how many times are our opinions, or how many times have we as parents out there listened to our children and just brushed it off for them being nervous or disrespectful in that case? So how did that feel for you, getting that appraisal from your grandfather?
Having the affirmation at a young age, especially I've found with kids, and encouraging them, if they're usually telling you something, and especially if they're telling you out of fear or they're feeling emotional, it's really important for parents or adults to listen to what the kids have to say. And I always had a really wonderful relationship with my grandfather. He was a very spiritual man, and he always had this kind of old-fashioned idea of psychic ability, of like, oh, is this godly, or is she possessed, or is she just super smart? Is she a genius? And so he was very questioning of it, where my mom was quite open and encouraged it. But she did tell me when I would go to school, she would be like, don't share this information with everyone because they may not accept it. They may think there's something strange about you, but it's okay, at home to tell us what you're thinking and feeling. And that continued until I was older. When I was 16, I had another near-death experience. My mom used to own a grocery store and a gas station down in Tillamook, Oregon, and there's country roads. And my grandfather had bought me a car for my birthday, and I was driving along a country road, and it has a lot of logging trucks, and lots of times cars would pass trucks if they're driving really slow. And so I decided to pass this truck, and this pickup truck pulled out from a side road, which I hadn't seen. And so he was about to hit me head on. And so I hit the brakes of my car really fast. And because it was a small car, it jerked and it got stuck underneath the middle of the logging truck. And it kept bouncing back and jerking back into the logging truck. And it was smashing the hood of the car. And I thought to myself, you know, people say when you are about to die, does your life flash before you? And in my case, it did. It flashed to my funeral and to my grandfather. And I was like pleading with God, like, I'm too young to die. I can't leave my grandfather. I can't leave my family. And I heard this voice, you know, to tell me to let go of the steering wheel and to basically duck down, like get all the way down in the driver's seat car. So I let go of the wheel and I ducked all the way down, and there was this chopping noise of the hood of the car. And then as I leaned all the way down, all of a sudden the car just sprung out, like it was like almost like a slingshot. And the car came to a stop, and I sat up, and I could see the truck driver walking towards me, and he was crying. He was thinking for sure I was dead. And I started shaking the handle of the car, like, get me out of the car, get me out of the car. And he was like, don't move. You must be hurt. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. And so they pulled me out of the window, and I didn't have a scratch on my body. My car was completely totaled, completely smashed. Nothing had happened to me. However, ever since that moment, it almost became like I became this transistor radio of if I'd walk into a grocery store and I'm like buying something with the clerk, I would just pick up on things about people, you know, information that maybe I didn't really want to know. And so over the years, I've had to learn when to turn it on, when to turn it off, because it becomes a very thin veil between life and death, especially when you've had out-of-body experiences or near-death experiences, because you're open. Spirits tend to be attracted to you, information comes to you, and so you have to be really thoughtful about how you use that information and use it in a positive way.
Did you ever regret the abilities coming on? Because I know there's a lot of people out there who question whether or not they were able to handle them at such a young age.
I think I always felt really different, and sometimes I don't think strange is the right word, but obviously paranormal is much more accepted now than maybe it was, 25 years ago. So I always felt different. And at times in relationships, especially romantic relationships, I always knew if someone was lying. I always knew if something wasn't exactly the way it was supposed to be. And sometimes when you have all the information presented to you from the beginning, that kind of can spoil things. Of course, you always have free will. I've tried to live my life and be very transparent and be very straightforward in how I think and feel, but also try to do it in a thoughtful and loving way. And for some people, having so much truth can be disconcerting and can be upsetting at times. Sometimes people only want to hear what they want to hear. So I've learned to only share information with people that I think that they can handle or that they're ready for.
Did you find as a youngster that you looked at the world differently after this near-death experience in the car?
Absolutely. I was no longer afraid of death. At the same time, I was almost fascinated by it. Not fascinated in a way like I wanted to die, but fascinated in a way that there's a very peaceful process to it. I know that many people can be frightened of it. I think it's spiritually beautiful. I believe that we all come to this lifetime, family members are like soul clusters. We have this kind of pre-agreement with each other of we're going to be a family and this is what we're going to work through and grow and change. And sometimes people come into our life to teach us a lesson, but other times we are there to be a teacher for others, whether it's about love, trust, forgiveness, healing, anger, whatever it might be. I find that life is much more easy to deal with and much more comforting when I come from a spiritual perspective.
How has that been for relationships with you? And the reason why I ask that is I know there's a lot of people such as myself out there that the more we have delved into this world of the paranormal, of the intuitiveness, that it has cost a lot of family and friends. And being on this side where you're having these thoughts, these images, these projections, it can be a little too overwhelming for the people in your immediate surroundings to handle on a daily basis. Did you struggle with friends and family as well?
I'm very fortunate that most of my female friends, many of them are either psychics or astrologers, or they're into the spiritual side. But from a relationship perspective, from dating and being married, I'm actually divorced now, but that can be challenging in relationships, especially I found in relationships, me being able to know when someone's not being completely truthful. And sometimes people will tell you little white lies, meaning they don't want to hurt your feelings, or for whatever reason, they're not really necessarily trying to be malicious, but because you can read people so well and sense it. I remember a previous relationship, an old boyfriend of mine used to get really upset with me because he was like, I would either instantly like someone or dislike someone, and then I could tell him why. And it was like, we haven't even known the person for 3 days. Like, can we have a chance? And I'm like, no, this is, ABC. I'll give 3 different reasons why. And then 2 weeks later, everything I said will come to fruition. And he used to think it was really strange, and he was agnostic. So it was kind of like, gosh, really? But my current partner now, my fiance, he's very spiritual, and he's on the same path as me. And so this is how we connect from a relationship perspective. And I think growing older, I'm only interested in having a spiritual relationship with someone where I have that spiritual foundation with them. And the superficial part of life is less and less important to me. But at the same time, we have to live in that daily world, social media and selfies and everything that's important to pop culture today, what people are into now. But it has been challenging. And I think from a work perspective, it can be disappointing to you may have a lot of respect for someone, and then you'll see things about them that maybe you don't want to see, and that can be upsetting or frustrating. It could be in relationship to a family member or someone that you may know at work. So you just have to kind of work through it. And if I look at it from a spiritual perspective, this is their life lesson, and I'm a part of that life lesson with them, and I'm not here to judge them. I'm here to either be a teacher or possibly learn from them. And sometimes you have to emotionally detach from it, and I find it easier to work with it that way.
The one thing that I have noticed in my almost 3 years of doing this show is there are a lot of people who are gaining their spirituality, and not only are they losing friends and family, but they've noticed that there has been some sort of financial implication that seems to go along with that. In other words, the more they get connected with their spiritual self, it seems to hurt them more financially. Have you talked with a lot of people along those lines as well, where they've had that happen?
I think it does happen. I also feel like sometimes we have to accept the fact of maybe we need to get a new set of friends, or when you're making that transition from the material world to the spiritual world, sometimes you have to let go of your material needs for a higher purpose. But I also believe in the law of attraction, and I also believe in manifestation. I would say in the last 5 years, I've had to let go of certain people in my life because it no longer served the path that I was on. And it was just very hard for me to be around them if I felt like they were being too negative or too superficial, or it just didn't really support the direction I was going in. Also, from a work perspective, I won't work certain jobs if I feel like it doesn't support the direction I'm going in. But I feel like it's part of the process, and I think that more people that turn to spirituality, we can hopefully change the world on a consciousness level to be a more positive place to live in. Astrologically right now, Pluto is in Capricorn, and what that means for Pluto and Capricorn, it's basically subconscious forces are working in our own life, but also on a global scale. So we're going to see a lot of transformation over the next 2 to 3 years because Saturn's in Capricorn as well. So it's about power and discipline and responsibility. Especially in the U.S., we may have challenges about feeling like some of our rights are being taken away or fighting for our rights. But also, Saturn can also be karmic retribution. So if you have abused your power, then you, like, say, look at Harvey Weinstein, like, he's abused his power. Now it's like, talk about a fall from grace from an entertainment perspective. And so I think we're going to see a lot of power struggles over the next 2 to 3 years. And that's where this spiritual foundation that you have, that I have, and other people that are listening right now, that is going to be an emotional protection for us to get to the other side over the next 2 to 3 years. And then Pluto will be going into Aquarius along with Saturn, and that's like the dawn of Aquarius. And then we'll start seeing everyone on a mass level evolving spiritually and basically trying to catch up with the rest of us.
When you started getting into and honing your own intuitive skills, did you look towards astrology right off the bat, or were you trying to figure out why you at first?
I remember my mom had ordered this book for me. I don't know where she got it, but I was like 8 years old, and it was like this huge, like, dictionary or encyclopedia of the supernatural. So it had everything from tarot, numerology, astrology, the oracle, runes, Wicca, like everything you could possibly think of. I was naturally attracted to astrology because that describes a person's personality and the dynamics, basically the tools that you're working with. Numerology as well, numbers have vibrations and how that can have meaning in your life and how you can use that to your advantage. And I've always used tarot cards more as an intuitive tool. I might be doing a reading for someone, and I'll look at the card, and each card has a definitive meaning attached to it, but when I'm actually reading tarot cards, I just use it to help me psychically pick up vibrations about a person. But I would say astrology is what I started with, astrology and numerology, and then I really started getting into tarot around the age of 12 and 13. At the same time, tarot sometimes, I don't want to say it scared me, but you have to really be careful, in my opinion, when you're reading tarot cards, because it kind of opens the door for good and evil, positive and negative forces, same as Ouija board. And I really like astrology. To me, is grounded in science. It's more practical advice. It's like a weather report. Hey, it's going to rain on Friday. Bring an umbrella. Or, hey, don't take this road. Take this path instead. I've used astrology to my advantage, even when I knew a negative astrological aspect was coming in my chart, and how I could use that to my advantage, or at least be prepared for it, so that when it happened, or any challenges I might be facing, it didn't seem as bad as it might have been if it was a surprise.
One of the big issues that I have with people who are intuitive, and I've talked to a lot of our audience members about this, as well as off the air, it seems like a lot of intuitive people out there can do or be so accurate when it comes to predicting the negative on when it's going to happen, whether it's Mercury retrograde, whether it's the stars not aligning, or what have you. Yet, when you ask them for something positive, it is always 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 months away, but you got to go through a rough patch or two in order to get there. And when you go through that rough patch or two, sometimes 3, and you finally get to that timeline to where the person you trust actually said when things are going to turn around, and it doesn't, then you go back to the person, and then you get, well, you got to go through another couple rough patches, and we're still 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 months away. And I think a lot of people lose a lot of credibility on those who are intuitive, because this continually happens for a lot of people out there who go to psychics, mediums, or people who are intuitive, even tarot card readers, to try and get some accurate type of balance when they are struggling.
Well, I'm a firm believer in free will, and when it comes to doing readings for people, I recommend never doing it more than twice in 1 year. I do think there are some people that can become addicted to getting readings. I've especially found it around love relationships. If you're going through a bad patch with a partner, or say you have a breakup and a person wants to know, is he or she coming back to me, or will I ever find love again? And then there's a little bit of obsession with that, because there's pain and heartache and grief that you're going through. So when I'm doing a reading for someone, especially when it's related to relationships, and especially if they're having struggles, I like to look at a person's chart astrologically, and I say, okay, here's how you are personality-wise, and here's how your partner is, and here's where the conflict is. And sometimes it's perception. Sometimes it's not what you say, but how you said it. Sometimes a person's love language is different than yours. Some people like to show it through action. Some people might be more emotionally sensitive. And I have found astrology, if people are into astrology and they're open to it, just explaining to them the personality differences and giving them ideas of, gosh, why don't you approach them this way? Has really helped the relationship and improved the relationship as far as communication is concerned. And then I'm also able to say, hey, they're going through their Saturn return over the next 2 years. Here are the challenges they're going to be facing. Here are the positive aspects, and here's how you can use it to your benefit. But everyone has positive and negative aspects in their chart. Some people may be more prone to be more emotional and sensitive. Some may be more prone to anger. Some people get bored easily. Some people are prone to cheating. Others aren't. And so you have to take everything into consideration. And that's what I do when I'm reading someone's chart, whether it's for relationships or even just making choices on their life path, because there's another aspect to astrology called relocation astrology. So the way astrology works is your chart is based on the time you were born and what city you were born in and the date you were born. So your sun sign represents who you're trying to be in this lifetime, learning to be this individual. And the time you were born represents your rising sign, and that's how you appear to others. But if you move, that can change your astrological chart and your aspects. So there are certain cities in the world that are more beneficial to you for work or for love. And there are some cities that you would go to and it's just terrible for you. You couldn't get arrested. So just simply making a change from a city perspective can make a huge difference in a person's life. So I find astrology very interesting. It's educational. And then I do find a lot of people enjoy getting tarot readings, because then you can kind of go more into the psychic part of it and say, okay, these are the things that I see happening. But we all have free will. Like, if you don't want to break up with a person, you don't have to, but you also have to recognize the other person may be on a completely different path. And so I'd say from a psychic perspective, keep your expectations realistic. I wouldn't go more than twice in 1 year. If you are getting readings for somebody and they keep encouraging you to get them on a weekly basis or monthly basis, you might want to reconsider that person, unless you're just trying to find out transits like, hey, I'm opening a business on December 12th, is that a good day? Is it a new moon or a full moon? Something that's more practical, then I feel that's okay. But if it's just, does he love me? Will he love me? Does she love me? Those type of questions, I wouldn't be getting multiple readings for that.
So let's move on to astrology. For our audience, if you could break down what astrology is and how it affects people.
Well, astrology for me is based on the planets in the sky, based on the time you were born. So, as I mentioned earlier, the day you were born, that is your sun sign. That represents who you're trying to be in this lifetime. For example, I'm a Virgo. So I'm here to be of service. However, based on the time I was born, I'm a Libra rising. So Libras are about relationships and communication and harmony and balance and creativity. So when someone meets me, they might think I'm a Libra when actually I'm a Virgo. And then you look at a person's moon sign, and that represents how you are emotionally. Venus is who you are attracted to. Mars is how you take action. Mercury is how you think. Jupiter is about where your luck comes from. Saturn is about kind of the taskmaster, where your responsibilities lie. And so your whole chart tells a story about who you are as a person. And then as you grow older, the planets in the sky and whatever transits might be happening interact with your chart and can cause positive or negative things to happen to you.
So do you find that astrology works on absolutely everyone in the path they are supposed to have, or does it only work on certain people?
I think astrology can work on everyone, and as anything, astrology has positive and negative aspects. So if you are operating on your highest vibration, then all the positive attributes in your chart will be fully functioning. But if you're struggling, if you're having problems in a relationship, somebody that might be having addiction problems, whatever it might be, then they're really resonating with the negative aspects of their chart. And so I think it's really helpful for a person to understand, here I am, this is my personality, here are my positive traits, here are my negative traits, here's what's going to be happening over the next 5 years. These are the things that I can accomplish. Do you want to start a business? Are you buying a house? Are you moving? Are you trying to find a life partner? Are you wanting to be more creative? Any of those aspects, and then also understanding how the planets are affecting your family members or people that you care about and your friends. And you can use that to your advantage. For example, Nostradamus, all of his predictions were based from an astrological perspective. And I think there's many public figures and political figures that have used astrology to their benefit to make decisions. I used to work for a man in Canada. He owned this big software company, and he based all of his business decisions based on astrology, even to the point of plugging in certain key computers for his data centers. Like if it was like, well, astrologically, you should be doing it at 2:45 in the morning in Kansas City, then that's exactly what he was doing. And he was very, very successful using astrology from a business perspective. And then he used numerology to choose the names of his companies. He truly believed in it. He lived by it. That's probably part of the reason as well why he was so successful, that he wasn't a skeptic.
You know what? It's funny you bring up that example, because I have talked to a number of psychic people before on this show who've been dealing with businesses and or people who are of fame of some sort, whether an actor, musician, athlete. And it's amazing to me how many businesses, especially because it affects everybody's everyday life, are actually run off of what is happening astrologically or psychically. It absolutely baffles my mind, and the companies that I were told, I can't really go into them on air because I was told on, off the record and not allowed to repeat it, but it amazes me that so many people are putting their businesses on the line, not for so much business skill, but on what the stars or intuition says.
I think it's very well accepted in Hollywood. I've worked the Golden Globes before. They have these gifting suites. So celebrities that have been nominated or people that are attending the Golden Globes can go through these gifting suites, and they pick up different gifts from different, it could be designers or jewelry or whatever it might be. But they also have a table where psychics and astrologers sit and give readings to different stars and stuff. And they'll sit down and with you, and you read them for 10, 15 minutes. And so I've had the opportunity to read quite a few people, and my experience, they're always excited and very interested and very much into it. And I think they kind of feel like it's part of what they need to do to be successful. Like they have their life coach, they have their personal coach, they go get their skin done, their hair done, their clothes, they have all their massage therapists, they have their psychic, they have their astrologer. So everything is all planned out to create the most harmony, balance, and success for them. Obviously, there's a lot of starlets that have a lot of problems as well. So, you could probably find that astrologically. I can find it astrologically in their charts of like, okay, well, they're this type of person. They just love drama. So it doesn't matter if they're famous or not famous. This is, part of their personality and their emotional makeup.
I think what happens, Jacy, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of people out there, we tend to forget that athletes, musicians, actors, Fortune 500 company owners, whether or not they are successful or not, or what we would deem as more successful than you or I or any of us listening, they're human after all. They are people who have the same issues, the same problems, the same drama that everyday people have.
I completely agree, and I think for them, they're living under a microscope, so you kind of have to be paranoid. Everything you think, you say, you do, what you wear, how you look, even going to, Target is like a big event. So they receive a lot of emotional rewards, financial rewards, but on a spiritual level, at times it can be challenging to them. I've met some people that are very spiritual and lovely, and others seem to be quite lonely. And I've found that in the tech space as well. Up in San Francisco, I live in Marin, and I've found with a lot of tech executives that I've done readings for that they have this money and they're very competitive, but they emotionally or spiritually feel kind of lost. And I've found a lot of them more attracted to astrology and numerology because it feels more grounded to them, because especially numerology, when you're working with numbers, that makes sense to them. Or astrologically, they can look at it and go, okay, from an analytical point of view. But yeah, at the end of the day, they're humans just like you and me.
So how do we go across about, getting or people judging what to do in their business, on a psychological level? Is that not dangerous? Is that not, putting a company, say a multi-million-dollar company on the line over an astrological reading or a psychic reading? That could be quite dangerous, could it not?
I think it could be. I mean, you have to be practical. I think if you use it as a tool or as a map, or as one of the tools that you use. For example, if you're a Fortune 500 CEO executive, you have your strategy consultants, you have your business analysts, and you might have an astrologer that could say, hey, for example, I just recently worked with a tech executive, a very well-known one, who's getting ready to launch a new company. And so he asked me for certain dates, what would be the best date to launch the company. So I ended up giving him like probably 10 different dates over a 3-month period. So he's going to choose the date, but I've given him like 12 dates to choose from. These are the best days to do it. This is why. If I had to choose a day, here's the 3 that I think are best. But at the end of the day, it's about him and what he thinks is best. And he's already financially successful, so he has his other advisors around him as well. So I would say in those circumstances, they're just using me as another sounding board as they make these decisions along with their PR team and their social media team and everyone else that they're working with.
Do you enjoy that about it? Do you enjoy the fact that there are people of all financial statuses, public statures, they're all looking for some sort of advice? Do you feel responsible in a way for that to get the correct information?
Yeah, I definitely feel responsible, and I always tell anyone that I do a reading for or look astrologically, you have free will. And then I try to explain to him, the reason why I chose this date is because the moon is in, say, Libra, and Mercury is in this sign, and it complements your chart. And, you know, I give them the positive and negative of what could or couldn't happen. And I try to give them a few different dates because at the end of the day, I do want it to be their own free will, but I'm giving them as much information as possible to make the best decision for themselves because their PR team will recommend to them, hey, these are the dates that we think you should push this out to press. You should do it on a Tuesday versus a Thursday, and this is why. Or the same thing with a movie release. Oh, well, we have to release the movie the 3rd week in November, but, Sony is releasing the same movie. Oh, so we have to move it by a date. So everyone is analyzing the reason why they're doing something from a business perspective. So I'm adding additional information, and I think smart businessmen or businesswomen try to get it as much advice as possible. But I think most people that are really successful in business are naturally intuitive, and that if they trust their gut instinct or their inner voice, most of the time they will make the right decision. Obviously, if you own a company and you have to weigh in with the board's going to help you make the decision, or maybe you have a business partner, then you have to take that into consideration as well.
So do you prefer dealing with people who are of an affluent nature, or do you prefer just helping out everyday people? You know, people who work construction, who are, you know, blue-collar type people who are just looking for that one advancement in their lifestyle?
For me personally, I really enjoy working with everyday people. I come from a humble background. I like connecting with people on a more personal level and really hearing about their story, their personal life journey, what they're hoping to achieve. Is it they're just looking for their soulmate or the love of their life, or maybe their son or daughter's getting ready to graduate from college and they're trying to, you know, look to see what's coming in the future for them, or maybe they're getting ready to start a business, or maybe they've hit a rough patch in their life and they're trying to think outside the box and hear different perspectives, or get some encouragement on what path they should be taking in life. I really enjoy doing that, and I enjoy having that emotional and spiritual connection with someone and feeling like I was able to help them. Maybe they just need encouragement, or maybe they already know what the answer is and they want to just, you know, get a second opinion, maybe an outside source that doesn't know them on a day-to-day basis.
Now, on your website, astrochicks.com, you actually deal with astrology and celebrities on a daily basis. How did this get started?
I started astrochicks.com, where the stars collide. I started it in 2008, and actually I had a friend of mine that has a site called Pop Bites, which is more pop culture and music. And he knew that I did astrology and psychic readings, and he said, gosh, you should do something around celebrity. And so I started doing my website. I originally started doing more based on reality shows, Bachelor, Bachelorette predictions, And over the last several years, I've worked with VH1 and MTV and Bravo and done predictions around cast members. How are they going to interact? Is this relationship going to work out? Especially if you're talking about the Bachelor or the Bachelorette, who are they most romantically compatible with? But it's more from like a fun and entertaining perspective. And I think from a fan's perspective, watching a TV show, it gives them added insight into the people that they're watching. From a celebrity perspective, I think it can be very interesting looking at celebrities' charts and trying to predict-wise what's going to happen to them. They have a movie coming out. Is it going to be successful? Is it going to be a failure? Is this marriage going to work out? How are these two people going to get along? And over the last couple of years, my partner, Patty Campson, and I have evolved into political predictions around Trump's, and that's been quite interesting because a lot of the predictions that we've made have come to pass. So it's been quite interesting.
How do you define what you're going to go after? Now, obviously, reality TV is and has been for the last 15, almost 20 years now, some of the highest rated television programming going, whether it's Survivor, whether it's The Bachelor or Bachelorette. You know, there's so much going on. And now, I mean, you could almost call politics, whether it's in Canada or the United States, quite a reality show as well. Do you pick topics that are popular for the day's conversation, or do you go by what the ratings say? How do you go about it?
It's a combination of both. Sometimes we will have one of the networks or one of the showrunners will reach out to us and say they'll give us the cast members' birth dates that are coming up for a show getting ready to launch. Say it's The Bachelor, Bachelorette, it could be VH1, Love and Hip Hop. And so we'll go ahead and write an article about who we think is going to get along, who's not going to get along. Sometimes it's based on pure interest. We see someone's getting in a new relationship. What does that look like? Oh, Jennifer Lopez, she has a new man in her life. Is she going to get married again? Is she not going to get married? Looking at Trump, obviously Trump is incredibly fascinating, and his White House and predicting which staff members are going to be leaving next and how that's going to affect us on the political stage. And then we also do astrological predictions for our readers. For example, new Moon and Libra is coming up on Thursday, or what their horoscopes might be coming up. So we try to make it entertaining. The political side tends to be a little bit more serious. We tend to attract more of a serious crowd that reads our predictions, and some believe in astrology, some hate it. A lot of people will want to talk about it, especially now that some of the predictions that we've made about certain White House members leaving, then people are like, whoa, hey, you got that right. And to even something as just fun as like Robert Pattinson and just broke off his engagement with Twigs in London. So I have all these Rob Pattinson fans that email me and want me to look at his chart and make predictions and things like that. So I try to interact with people that read the site and answer their questions, whether it's just fun and entertaining or more serious.
Do people still love that Hollywood gossip type information that you provide? Because it sounds, and I'm not trying to demean what you're doing here, but it sounds so National Enquirer. You know what I'm saying?
We don't really write it in a salacious way. It's more, we take a look at a person's chart and we say, oh, they have Sun in Cancer and Moon in Scorpio, and talking about how they're all about family, but Moon in Scorpio means they might be jealous and possessive, and emotionally, that could create an emotionally charged relationship with their boyfriend, and he's got Sun in Leo, and that squares his Sun, so they're going to have this kind of love-hate, passionate relationship. So it's kind of giving the readers a different perspective to their favorite celebrity's personality, or kind of like how their emotional makeup is, and why we think from an astrological perspective why why these relationships play out the way they do. And so we try to be more factual, but when I say fun and entertaining, I mean we try to stay positive. And if someone has a challenge, then we'll say, gosh, we see this relationship as challenged. For example, something like The Bachelor show, Nick Viall, when he got engaged to Vanessa, and she's from Canada, she's from Montreal, and I made a prediction. I said, I don't see this relationship lasting more than 6 months. The engagement will break up, and here's what I see in his chart, and this is why I don't think the relationship will work out, even though they're both lovely people. They're just, I didn't feel like they were meant to be together, and they did break up. So I can see where it can sound a little bit National Enquirer, but I'd like to think that we're more like a People magazine or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, we're going to get you to hold on here for just a moment, because we're going to get more into the astrology side of things. So hour number 2 is where we also like to include our questions from our audience as they start to come in, and I'm sure they will start to flow through here any time whatsoever. I'm really glad you came in to join us tonight, Jacy.
I'm having a lot of fun. I really appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Well, I told you it would go quick. This is 1 hour in. We got 2 hours to go. We're only a third of the way. We're flying on
One down,
by.
2 to go.
I know. Well, hold on. That could be negative there. We're not going to put any negative energy. This is all little positivity and zen here on Spaced Out Radio. So we got to remember that. And once again, we will ask all of you in our chat rooms if you have any questions for Jacy Nova. Her website is astrochicks.com. We're going to get more into astrology. She may have even done a reading on me. We're going to find out what that's all about as well. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Hour number 2 with Jacy Nova coming up right after this. You stay tuned.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over the Spaced Out Radio night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Want a place to share your experiences without feeling judged? We have the place for you. If you've experienced sightings or contact with ETs, ghosts, cryptids, or UFOs, and you'd like someone to confidentially look into the matter, just fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our goal is to help you get the answers you need to the experiences you've had with our professional team of researchers. Your information stays 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines report. Fill out your experience today only at spacedoutradio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at spacedoutradio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience, Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on spacedoutradio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, it might be a little bit up in the air. We're supposed to have Ghosts of the Great White North, but some personal issues have come up for Mike Morin, so we may make a change on the fly tomorrow night. I don't know what's happening tomorrow night on the show, but we will definitely be here, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. Why don't we just call it a mystery show tomorrow night at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Great to have you with us as well. We are also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Kinnick. What the hell is that, Bill? Kinnick. Nobody really knows, and that's a low-scoring Scrabble word as well. Way too many one pieces. But Bill sets a password each and every night, right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Use the hashtag SpacedOutRadio, like Canadian Joe, if you want to connect with me live during the show. You can also give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. And you can join us for live chat on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Group. We're on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. You can listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States, TalkStream Live, tune us in on TuneIn, download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. Shop at the Spaced Out Radio store. Read the Encounter online, or catch some great video viewing from UFO Seekers and Contact TV. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. Tonight we are talking with Jacy Nova. She is an astrologist. Her website, astrochicks.com. If you want to check it out, I highly suggest you do. Jacy, welcome back.
Thank you for having me on the show tonight.
Do you know what Kinnick is?
No, I do not.
No.
What is that?
I have no idea. Now I'm going to look up the meaning of this because it is driving me crazy. See, Bill sets a password each and every night here. The password changes each and every night. And really, we've asked, people have asked, what's the password for? And the only thing we can say is exactly. What's the password for? Exactly. Okay. Kinnick. It is a smoking mixture used by North American Indians as a substitute for tobacco or for mixing it with, typically consisting of dried sumac leaves and the inner bark of willow or dogwood. There's our knowledge for the day. Kinnick.
Wow. I learned something new today.
Yeah. I don't know what that actually defines during the show, but the fact is, it's your password for tonight. So we're going to use it. We're going to stick with it. I think I got it right, though. Pronounced it right, at least. Anyhow, that's the whole password thing. What's it for? Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So anyways, let's get more about you with astrology. Explain to our listeners here how their astrology signs work, if you don't mind.
Well, the astrology signs are divided. For example, earth signs would be Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus, practical, hardworking, grounded, loyal, trustworthy. Those are the standard kind of description of earth signs. Air signs is Libra, Aquarius, Gemini. Charming, funny, smart, great communicators. It's about everything's like in your head. Water signs are Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. Emotional, mysterious, sensitive, can be moody, also creative, intuitive. And then fire signs, Leo, Aries, and Sagittarius, is fun and warm and outgoing and very action-oriented, can be a little bit me-centric. So those are the basic descriptions of each zodiac sign. But as I mentioned earlier, your chart, when you're born, it's like you're a beautiful painting. You're this amazing painting, and you have all these different planets in your chart, and each one represents something different, whether it's your moon. For example, I did your chart, and you're a Gemini,
Oh, yes.
Geminis, you have Sun in Gemini, you have Mercury in Gemini, you also have Venus in Gemini. So you have what we call a grand stellium. So this means that in this lifetime, you're here to be the great communicator. You're smart, you're funny, you're intelligent, you want to get your ideas across to others. Because you have Moon in Aquarius, that makes you emotionally, I would say, a little bit more guarded. You like to kind of hear everybody's perspective. Sometimes you like to participate in lively debate. Sometimes it's because you're curious and interested, and other times you just want to have a little bit of fun just to hear what other people have to say. But at the same time, trying to be non-judgmental, listening to everyone's perspective and being respectful towards that. And at the same time, with all those Gemini planets, usually Geminis can get bored pretty easily. When I was looking at your chart, it shows that you have a Leo rising. So when people meet you, they probably think you're really fun and entertaining. You have this warm personality, kind of larger than life, very charismatic. Your moon sits in your 7th house of relationships. So your success and failure in life will come through your relationships with others. And because your moon is there, there's that emotional connection. So that's something you have to be mindful of, to not allow your emotions to get the best of you in relationships, and allow that Moon in Aquarius to have a more non-judgmental reaction to situations. Mars in Pisces, very creative, very intuitive, very sensitive. And that squares all your planets in Gemini. So maybe sometimes you say things you don't really mean. And because I look numerology-wise, you're master number 22. Master 22 is you're here to build a platform. And so doing radio is fantastic for you because you're creating a platform for others to learn about the supernatural, the paranormal, whatever the topics might be on your show, but also for others to share their experiences and to meet other people, to connect with each other. And right now, New Moon in Libra is happening on Thursday. And what that means for you and everyone else that's listening, what that means is New Moon in Libra is all about relationships. It's about harmony. It's about balance, love. Now, this particular new moon on Thursday over the next 2 months can kind of rock the boat a little bit. And what that means is that it could throw a few challenges into relationships. So let truth be your friend. Speak from your heart, but be respectful and empathetic towards others, because sometimes the truth, whether it's you or someone listening, that they may have to speak to someone else could be hurtful. So you have to be mindful of that. Also, some relationships will change and boundaries will need to be set from a relationship perspective. On the positive side, this is a great time to build new relationships from a business perspective, to get deals done. This is really now a time for a person to use their charm and personality to really engage people with their ideas, so that they can get new projects off the ground or close deals that haven't closed quite yet, or make new friends.
Well, that sounds positive. I may be happy with that.
Very positive. Well, you have to think about it, because that's what Geminis like to do. You're going to think about it. But at the same time, you have Uranus and Pluto in Libra. So your chart is about shaking things up and getting people to talk about it. It's like, open that closet and throw out all those skeletons, and let's get it all out there, and let's talk about it. Let's dissect it. Let's hear, everyone's perspective. And I think the first step is about communication and opening up people's minds and hearts to new ideas. And that's how we continue to move forward. Communication is so powerful and so important. For your particular chart, you don't have any fire or earth in your chart. So from a business perspective, I would recommend to have partnerships with others that have strong aspects of Earth planets. So Virgo, Taurus, Capricorns, or Aries, Leo, or Sagittarians would be very beneficial to you on any project you might be working on.
Well, we have a lot of projects going forward here, so I'm going to be very interesting to see where this kind of goes. I always like using myself as a litmus test kind of thing because, gee whiz, it's scary when it comes true. Scary good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's always positive.
Absolutely.
Positive manifestation. One of my favorite books is called E Squared, and it's really about creating, manifesting opportunities in your life, and they have little tests that you can do, and it's just a wonderful book. I'm sure you can get it in Canada or get it on Amazon, but it's called E Squared.
I'll have to check it out. I have a couple questions from our audience, if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem.
BTO is asking, does astrology and its readings actually dictate one's universal path, or is astrology some sort of form of assistance so that the individual can make his or her decisions?
I would like to look at astrology. I mean, I do think it's there for your assistance, but just like we all have our own unique DNA and our fingerprint, we all have unique fingerprints. Our astrological charts, so if you look at it, say someone's born on October 10th at 7 o'clock in the morning in New York, and so all these babies are born at the same time. Does that mean they're all going to be the same? Yes and no. They'll have certain personality aspects, but also we are emotionally molded by our personal experiences. So that means by what type of parents you're raised in, what type of home you're raised in. So there will be all these different challenges, and how you choose to react to those challenges, you can do that in a positive or negative way based on your astrological chart. So I like to recommend to people to use it as a tool to help make decisions in your life and to kind of give you a weather prediction of what's coming up. Or if you're in your relationships with others, it gives you a personal look into someone's personality or how they might react to a situation. And knowledge is power. So if you have that knowledge, that maybe if you have a disagreement with someone, and if you follow astrology, you might think like, gosh, they've got Mars in Scorpio, so they're prone to have a temper. So it's not, I'm not going to take it so personal, because that's just who they are. So I found astrologically it helps me to accept people for who they are and how I can work with them in a more positive way.
Mm-hmm. Second part of that question is astrology solely based on externalization, or is it an opportunity for individuals to go listen to the readings and go within themselves?
I would really encourage people to listen to the reading and go within themselves. I as I get older, which I'm sure as people get older, my spirituality is much more important to me. You learn from your mistakes. You learn from your relationships with others. It also gives you an opportunity to take a look at your chart and say, if there are aspects of my personality that I haven't explored, for example, with my fiance, he's a musician, but a friend of mine who's an astrologer, she looks at his chart and said, well, if he wasn't a musician, he should have been like a priest. Like he's a very spiritual person, but he could have gone either way. So he's really explored the first half of his life as a musician and all the good and the bad that goes along with that. And now, as he gets older, he's more on a spiritual path. So he's going to experience those other aspects of his personality, and he's using his astrological chart to go within.
All right, let's get to a question from Bob. He is saying, I heard a few years ago that the constellations have changed due to entropy. I was a Capricorn, for example, but because of the sun pulling the Earth through a spiral galaxy, my sign should be something else now. What do you have to say about this?
Well, there are two forms of astrology. There's Vedic astrology, which is Asian people in India would tend to follow Vedic astrology. And then there's Western astrology, which is usually North America and Europe follow that. So in Vedic astrology, it takes your chart back, and this may sound complicated to some people, but for example, I'll just use myself as an example. I'm born on September 2nd, so that puts me at 9 degrees Virgo. But in my Vedic chart, it takes me back 21 degrees. So in my Vedic chart in India, I'm actually a Leo. So depending on what type of astrology you follow, and Vedic astrology and Western astrology are very different. There are some similar aspects. It does change. So what's your one of your listeners' question, that is a possibility, and that's something to take into consideration. What I would say is if he's looking at his chart, if you're born on the cusp, like say, for example, you're May 24th, so you're on the cusp of Taurus, Gemini, I would say yes, it could definitely affect your sun sign. But if you're born like in the middle, like June 15th, and you're 21 degrees Gemini, then no, you're probably a Gemini no matter what. So it really depends on your birth date.
All right, let's get to Sunny's question at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. She says she is a Leo and was just diagnosed with major depression, so she's curious about what could happen with her decreased mood or poor motivation of late, and could it be related to astrology or the astrological signs?
Well, I would have to look at other aspects of her chart, but as a Leo, Leos are meant to be kind of front and center, and that's what she's trying to learn to be in this lifetime, to be outgoing, to be the center of attention, to be passionate and creative and warm and positive. So these are life lessons that she's supposed to learn in this lifetime. And looking at other aspects in her chart, if she's suffering from depression, usually I find that people that may suffer from depression usually will have a lot of water in their chart. Sometimes they'll see Moon in Pisces, Moon in Cancer, Moon in Scorpio, which can tend to make a person really sensitive, or they will be getting a Saturn square. And when Saturn in your chart squares your moon, it kind of feels like someone's sitting on you. So emotionally, it just makes you feel kind of stuffed and depressed. So she could be affected by the planets. I would encourage her to get her chart done, and the astrologer can actually tell her what transits are coming up that will work to her benefit, positive and negative. And I think through knowledge, it can definitely help a person emotionally lift their spirits. And I'm sure her doctor has probably advised her of other things that she should be doing as well. Exercise is wonderful to increase the endorphins, and music and meditation can be beneficial as well.
All right. She has added her birth date if you needed that.
Sure. Yeah, what is it?
It's August 9th, 1990. My God, girl, you're young. I graduated in 91 in high school. You're making me feel old here.
Okay, so just give me a moment here. August 9th, 1990. Let's see. Oh, here we are. Okay. So she has Moon in Pisces. Yeah, so I thought so. So Moon in Pisces, that is a challenge that I've found a lot of people sometimes suffer from depression that have Moon in Pisces. Moon in Pisces tends to absorb everyone's emotions around them. So it's almost like she's a sponge, and she walks in a room, and people are naturally going to be attracted to her, positive or negative. So she's soaking up all these vibrations, not only her own, but others. So she could possibly go home and think, gosh, I felt really good when I left the house, but I went and ate at that restaurant, and now I came home and I just feel really bummed out, or gosh, I'm not feeling that great. So that's something to be really conscious of emotionally. You have to be careful about who you surround yourself with, positive or negative. On the positive side, Moon and Pisces are very kind, emotionally sensitive, psychic, intuitive, usually very attractive, probably one of the best friends you ever want to have, a person that has Moon in Pisces. So she's just a very, very sensitive soul. I see that she has Venus in Cancer, so relationships are really important to her. Family's really important to her. Her Mercury in Virgo makes her really smart, but also maybe self-critical. You can be your own worst enemy, maybe obsessing on things. Gosh, why did I say that? Or why did that person say that? So that can create challenges. I have found that people that I know that have Moon in Pisces, and I have family members that have Moon in Pisces, that just by doing simple things, one, you have to be very conscious of people that you're around. So if you're in a situation, you're out with a group of friends, you're at school, you're at work, and you find someone, maybe you feel like they're too negative or they're too angry or something about them upsets you, you need to just excuse yourself and try to emotionally separate yourself from those type of situations. Also, meditation is very beneficial. Also, saging your house to clean out energy where you live. Maybe you've had people over or you had a party, whatever it might be. Saging your home is really important. And then also, a lot of psychics will do this too, because psychics are emotionally sensitive and human sponges. Just taking lots of showers tends to cleanse your energy, cleanse your soul, and saying positive affirmations in the morning. The positive thing I can tell her is Jupiter just went into Scorpio, and so I think emotionally things will start to lighten up for her right around Christmas. And Jupiter will be in Scorpio through October of 2018. So this can be a really positive time for her with family and relationships if she wants to use that to her advantage. But that is probably something she's going to have to deal with. And so I would just recommend to start emotionally protecting herself from people that she really probably needs to remove from her life. And I'm sure she knows who I'm talking about.
All right, let's get to BTO's question. Are astrologers psychic mediums as well, or only utilize charts, tarot, and other types of readings, or can you be both?
You can be both. There's a variety of different types of psychics. I call myself an intuitive astrologer. So I like to look at a person's chart to get an understanding of their personality and their makeup. And then intuitively, I can pick up things about individuals. And then if I want to look towards the future, I'll use tarot cards just as a visual tool to do a reading for someone. Everyone's different. I always think maybe because I'm a Virgo, I like to use astrology because I have kind of a practical guide that I can take a look at. But I have friends. I have friends that are pure psychics. I have some friends that are psychic mediums that talk to the dead, and that's all they do. They won't do astrology. They don't do psychic readings. So every person is different. So if you're looking to get a reading from somebody, I would just ask them, are you a psychic? Are you an astrologer? Do you use tarot? What tools do you use when you do a reading? And some people will say, oh, I'm clairaudient. I hear voices, or they sense things. So everyone is different.
All right, let's get to Heather's question. She says, my husband was born on October 22nd. She is November 4th. Are we compatible, and is he on the cusp of Scorpio?
So she's October 22nd, and he's November 4th. Is that what she said?
Opposite. She's November 4th.
Okay. He's on the cusp, depending on what chart you're looking at. He's on the cusp of Libra and Scorpio. And people that are double Scorpios together can be real powerhouses. I would say the relationship is probably very emotional and passionate and love, hate, and all kinds of craziness, but also can be really fun and deeply spiritual and loving. The relationship can be what you want to make of it. There will always be a little bit of a power struggle because both of you might want to be in control. If I know the year that each one of them was born, I can dig a little bit deeper and look at it, look at their chart.
We'll have to wait for our time delay to catch in, and when we do that, while we're doing that, let's go to Alan's question. Can you, Jacy, tell us what you think of the ability to tap into the Akashic Records is like Edgar Cayce, Albert Einstein, Tesla?
I love Edgar Cayce, Pisces. I think that I really encourage people to tap into it. I think a lot of the information, the medical technology that we have today comes from that. And I find it incredibly fascinating. And I would encourage people to use it and learn about it. I think Edgar Cayce's books are fantastic. I'm actually a member of his foundation. You can join. It's, I believe, in Virginia. And so I pay an annual fee, and they have events all over the country, and they talk about different topics related to that.
Let's get to Sandra's question. Sandra is new in our chat room, so thank you, Sandra, for joining us. She's asking, if you don't know the time of your birth, does it still make a difference in your reading? Her birth date is December 15th.
It can make a difference. I would need to know the year she was born, and what the difference is for example, if I was talking about your chart and I said, you're a Gemini, you have several planets in Gemini, and you're a Leo rising, and your moon in Aquarius is in your 7th house because your 7th house is ruled by Aquarius. Now, if I didn't have your birth time, I wouldn't be able to know that. So I wouldn't have necessarily said that a lot of your success in life comes through relationships with others. But because I know your rising sign and I'm looking at where your moon is, then that gives me an added layer to be able to make more accurate predictions for you. But without your birth time, I can still look at a person's chart and see where their planets are and give them a basic overview of what their personality is and what their strengths and weaknesses are and how the planets coming up might aspect their chart.
She was born December 15th, 1958.
Okay, so 1958. Just a second. Okay. Well, the one thing for Sagittarius is the truth seeker, and they're about freedom, adventure. They're very outspoken, usually have a very positive, upbeat personality. The last 2 years, Saturn has been in Sag, so for a lot of Sagittariuses, it's been kind of restrictive, and maybe things have felt more difficult. She has Moon in Aquarius, so I would say that usually Moon in Aquarius, you can be emotionally guarded, but you're also very smart and intuitive, and you're open to other people's ideas, and you like to hear what other people have to say, and you're not necessarily going to emotionally overreact to situations. She also has Mercury and Venus in Sag, so I would say she's probably very outspoken. She's not afraid to speak her mind and share with people what she thinks and feels, and she kind of marches to her own beat. She's a lot of fun to be around, makes a wonderful, wonderful friend. Saturn has been on her Venus for the last 2 years, so I would say there's been some challenges in her relationships with family. That is just starting to pass now that Saturn's moving into Capricorn, and because she has Mars in Taurus, she's probably going to be able to feel like she can start really taking action on things that she wants to do, and maybe she's felt restricted over the last couple of years, but now things are starting to open up for her, and that will continue to increase over the next 3 months. Also, she has Jupiter in Scorpio, so she's in her Jupiter return. So overall, the next year should be very positive for her. Because Jupiter in Scorpio, when you have your Jupiter return, it's the most fortunate time of year for you. It's very auspicious. So whether you want to start a business or travel or move or just find a new relationship or just really enjoy your life the next 12 months is a perfect time to have as much fun as possible.
All right, let's move on to the next question. This one comes from Adam, and he is asking, JC, is there a connection to past lives and the astrological sign?
That's a really great question. I would say that is a very strong possibility. I personally do believe in reincarnation and past lives. I also believe that we come together in this lifetime. We're a soul cluster. And I had this interesting, I went to this afterlife conference in Scottsdale, Arizona, which was just a few weeks ago. And part of what we did is a regression of really trying to discover your past lives. And the way I saw our past lives is almost like if we were riding into a train station, and you go to a train station, and if you've ever been to New York has Grand Central Station, and you look up and you can see all the different destinations, and it's like the souls coming together to figure out what their destination is going to be in the next lifetime. And then the people that are in your life now that are prominent in your life, family members, friends, your arch nemesis, it's people that you've spent many lifetimes together. And so when you come into this lifetime, you look at your astrological chart, it's telling you, hey, here's all the positive and negative traits that you have in your chart. And hey, you're a Virgo, you're here to be of service. And you're a Gemini, and you're here to communicate ideas. And if you're a Pisces, you're here to be spiritually in tune with others and be creative and emotionally connect with people. You'll find that your life will play out in that direction. And some people will be given more challenges than others, but the more challenges you have, the greater rewards that you will have in the afterlife because of it.
All right. Let's move on to another question. This one comes from Trip, who is asking, do you know if NASA changed the timing and positioning of the stars and did it affect astrology readings?
To be honest with you, I don't know that, but that sounds very fascinating. I'd probably want to look into that a little bit more, but that's always a strong possibility. I think from UFOs to NASA, I think our government's probably doing a lot of things that they're not telling us about, so that is a strong possibility.
All right. Let's move on here. I'm curious about the signs, okay? Because I know I'm a Gemini. I don't really look into that. I've had people say, oh, what's your sign? Back in the dating days of old Davy, almost every lady, what's your sign? Well, I'm a Gemini. Oh, you're one of them. Yeah. Does the sign really portray who a person is?
I believe in astrology, so of course I'm going to say yes, but I really do think that if you dig a little bit deeper beyond just your sun sign and you have your astrological chart done or your natal report, I think you'll find that it can be very, very accurate. Also, people can make predictions. For example, everyone in their lifetime will go through what they call a Saturn return, and that usually happens between the ages of 28 or 29 to the age of 31. And that's kind of a coming of age moment where a lot of people get married, they buy a house, they move cross country, they make huge drastic changes in their life. And then again, you have your second Saturn return in your 50s, and that's usually people's children are grown, they move out of the house, maybe you retire, you could get divorced, there's all kinds of changes that you might go through. So I do think that your astrological chart can definitely give you predictions of what might happen to you, but also from a personality perspective, if people are sitting and wondering, gosh, why do I do that? Or why does my husband or my wife act that way? Or why is my son behaving this way? Will give you more insight into a person's personality and allow you to have more empathy and understanding for them, and will also enhance your communication. And when you have more positive communication with someone, then you have a deeper understanding of that person and of who you are on a spiritual level. I've found, at least in San Francisco, in the area that I live in, I've found that like a lot of psychologists are using astrology as well when they're doing therapy with individuals to help them through whatever challenges it might be, family relationships, addiction, or whatever it might be. They found it to be incredibly beneficial.
So does it matter at what time of the year you're born? Like, are say, people who were born in the first quarter of the year much different than people who were born during the summertime months or the end of the year?
I think they are. I think that I would think that most of your listeners have a variety of friends, or you could ask them one randomly, like, what zodiac signs have you dated the most? Like, in my lifetime, over and over again, Libra comes up, Cancer, Taurus, and for the first time in my life, I'm in a relationship with an Aries, which is very unusual, but you know, that's the perfect partner for me, but I have Libra rising and that falls in my 7th house. So I think if you start asking your friends, what are the 2 top zodiac signs that you've dated in your lifetime, you will probably find a lot of people be like, I always date Scorpios, or I always date Geminis, or you'll find that you gravitate towards certain types of people. And if you look at your astrological chart, or I look at someone's chart, I'll be like, oh, you know, you have a lot of Libras in your life because you have Libra rising and Moon and Libra. So you're just naturally feel emotionally connected to that person. Or if you have a strong dislike for somebody, I can look at their chart and go, you know, you have Mars. Their Mars, which is anger and energy, is squaring your moon or your Mercury, and it just, you know, they just irritate you. And this is the aspect that I see.
So do you believe then that there are certain signs that should not get together with certain signs, either on a friendship level or on a romantic or relationship level?
Well, I think we're all here to learn and grow. So the person that represents the most challenges to you is the person that's going to give you the opportunity for the most growth and allow you to work through issues that they may be a teacher for you, or vice versa. You may be a teacher for them. As they say, opposites attract. When I look at someone's chart and I'm trying to see whether or not the relationship has kind of the longevity factor, there has to be some type of conflict in the relationship, because sometimes conflict is the glue that will keep people together. It's usually Saturn. So there may be some conflict. It could be conflict about family. It could be conflict around children, but they will usually have some type of Saturn aspect. So the relationship isn't perfect, but there are other areas that maybe they're emotionally very compatible, or maybe you think the same way, or you share the same values. There are other aspects in the chart that are really positive that will keep the relationship together. But I think it usually is a strong foundation of friendship, common interests, and then some type of conflict that keeps the relationship still interesting so it doesn't get too boring. If I see 2 charts where they have like a strong sexual aspect, where this is a very strong sexual connection, but maybe it's also a strong kind of passionate love-hate relationship, eventually it'll fizzle out. And it's usually the other people that are emotionally connected. There's a little bit of conflict, but not too much.
Because I always wondered that. Because, you know, you always hear those stories, oh, you should never date a Libra if you're a Gemini, or if you're a Capricorn, you should never go for a Scorpio, or whatever it is. You always hear that, especially around the ladies. You know, and it often makes me wonder whether or not there's something actually to that, because at times I've heard, well, I've literally had ladies come up to me, I just can't date a Gemini. It's, you know, you're too far out there for me. I've actually had that happen. And it's left me scratching my head saying, well, which side? You know, since there is 2 of us, right? Which side are you not liking? I want to know this, but I never get an answer.
You're funny. Yeah, I think Scorpios always get really bad reputations of being, you know, especially guys, Scorpios, or women, she's jealous or possessive, or, ooh, you can't trust him. I mean, that's more of a general term. So I think you have to have to open up the hood of the car and see what other planets are inside before you make that decision. And then also, if you really want to look at it from a spiritual perspective, hey, we're here together to learn from each other and grow. And so, maybe next time around, we don't have to go through this particular challenge in our life.
All right. Let's get to a question from Aussie Rob down in Australia. He is asking, Jacy, does it matter where in the world you are born relating to the time? Being 15 hours ahead, is there any difference in the readings? He was born April 8th, 1973, around 6 p.m.
Okay, April 8th, 1973. So, when you're looking at someone's astrological chart and you find out what time they're born, you enter the city information. And so the astrological chart is based on the time you were born in that particular location. So can you tell me it's April 15th is what he said?
April 8th, 1973.
April 8th. Okay, perfect. So he's an Aries. He's got Moon in Gemini, so you guys would probably be great friends. That's probably why he loves your show so much. So Aries like to be first. They like to get things done. They're very action-oriented, a lot of fun to be around. He's got Moon in Gemini, so he's a great communicator, good sense of humor, gets bored pretty easy. Mercury in Pisces, very creative, artistic, psychic, intuitive. Venus in Aries, so he definitely, when it comes to relationships, he definitely goes after what he wants. He likes to take the lead in a relationship. Mars in Aquarius, I would say that he probably wouldn't have a temper. He likes to talk about things, like tries to be reasonable. Let's work this out. I think probably I would say not 2018, but 2019, if he's not already in a serious relationship, it's definitely going to be a really positive time for him and his family and whoever he's close to. If he's in a relationship, then that means the relationship is going to get deeper and stronger. And if he isn't in a relationship, then that means really finding someone special and important in his life. Sounds like a really nice guy.
He is.
Great chart.
He's a very good guy. Very intuitive as well. Very intuitive as well. So.
Yeah, he has strong aspects to your chart, so it looks like you guys would make great friends.
Yes, except he has a strange accent, and you know how them Aussies are. They have kangaroos and stuff. That's all I got. I'm going to go switch to Canada now, and Dawn is asking, Jacy, I'm wondering if you could tell me if it is a good time to start a home business. I'm born January 2nd, 1974, between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. in Alberta.
Okay. Well, the fantastic thing about January 2nd, so Saturn is in Capricorn, going into Capricorn right now, and Saturn is exalted in Capricorn. And because you are a Capricorn, it actually is a fantastic time for you to start a business. Also, Pluto will be there. So the one thing I would advise is you have to kind of think outside the box, be really innovative in your ideas from a marketing approach and how you want to build your business. Obviously, as a Capricorn, you're very down-to-earth, hardworking, practical. You're really going to be able to figure out from a financial perspective how to work it out. But from a marketing perspective, I think you'll find success when you're really innovative and unique in your approach. You have Venus in Aquarius, so I would say from a creative perspective, you have some really unique, interesting ideas. And I would say that maybe she's probably could be too hard on herself sometimes. So maybe she might come up with an idea and then she might have self-doubt and think, no, gosh, should I really do this? And I would say now is the time, definitely. The next 2 years, Saturn will be in Capricorn. If you work hard, be responsible with the finances, and just be really innovative in your ideas. And from a marketing perspective, I think she'll do really well.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say go for it as well. Sometimes you have to say, what the hell? And go for it.
Absolutely.
You know, at least that's my opinion of everything. I mean, if you don't take that chance, excuse me, if you don't take that chance, you just never know whether or not it would have worked. And, as we get older, the one thing that I'm battling with, and this is why I'm pushing so hard for this show to go, is I don't want to look back and say, well, I could have done that. We've lived with enough regret. And do you notice that when people ask you those questions, that regret comes up quite a bit?
Yes, regret does. And it's like you have to take advantage of the opportunities now, because any person, especially when it comes to business, if you read any success story from an entrepreneur, they didn't have success, from day one. There are, starts and stops along the way, or some successes, some failures. You learn and grow each time, and part of it is the journey and the people that you meet along the way. And you definitely don't want to live your life with regret. So you should definitely go for it. And she's got the chart to make it a success.
I say go for it. Go for it, Dawn. Go for it.
Yes, we agreed. You need to go for it.
Absolutely. As long as it's not a radio show in my time slot. That's all I care. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Do you believe, then, that too many people put too much stock in what an astrological reading comes out for them?
I think they just need to use it as a tool. I really believe strongly that everyone has free will to make decisions on their own, and they can use it as a spiritual compass or an astrological guide to their future and how they can use it to their advantage. I found that many people, when they've had an astrological reading, they find comfort in understanding, or they look at their relationships or their life situation from a new perspective that maybe they hadn't thought of. And once you open your heart and your mind to new opportunities, I guess there's a saying, when you change the way you look at things, things begin to change. And I think that's really important, not to be too stuck in your way, and at least be open to new doors, new paths in life that might move you in a more positive direction.
Does religion play a part in what anybody's astrological signs or beliefs may be? I realize you mentioned free will earlier, but personal belief and personal understanding or recognition of someone practicing religion could have an effect. At least that's what I've seen on the spiritual side in talking with people.
I think it really depends on your faith. I know that some Christians are okay with astrology, but are totally against psychic readings and tarot readings, where some other religions might think it's a gift from God. I know from a Vedic astrology perspective in India, it is part of their culture. And for example, a lot of their marriages today are still prearranged. And before they get married, their parents look at each partner's astrological chart. And if they're not compatible, they won't allow their children to get married. So it's like a part of their everyday life. Everything they do is based on astrology, whereas here in North America, I think, some people just enjoy reading their horoscopes, so it's more from an entertainment perspective, and other people take it much more seriously.
We only have about 3.5 minutes before we have to go to break here. Do you think then that if that's the case where certain religions actually rely on astrology, that there is some sort of combination between all religion that kind of balances itself out when it comes to the supernatural or the psychic phenomena?
Well, I definitely believe in the power of good and evil, and I do believe that there are positive spirits and negative spirits and angels and all kinds of tools that are available to us on a daily basis if we want to explore the supernatural world and look to see what's on the other side. I think as time passes over the next 20 years from now, the veil between this world and the other side will become much thinner. I think that children growing up now, paranormal will be a part of everyday life. I think it's just a part of a person's belief system and what you feel comfortable with. And as I mentioned earlier, knowledge is power. You can explore something, learn about it. You don't have to believe in it. But I think it's important to understand what other people think and believe around the world, because if you have a better understanding of why they might think a certain way, you may not agree with them, but at least you can respect what their values might be and have a better understanding, and everyone would get along a lot better because of it.
What about negative readings? The negativity always seems to come up at this point.
I have met psychics through my life, or people that do readings, and they can be very negative, or there are stereotypes, for example, with gypsies that might say, oh, they have a curse on you, so take this boiled egg and put it in a glass of water underneath your bed and do all kinds of crazy stuff. On one side, I think sometimes on one side they're shysters and they're just trying to make money off of you. Then sometimes you might be getting a negative reading from somebody because they come from a negative perspective, and that's kind of their energy. And another person might see something negative, and maybe they're just presenting it in the wrong way. Because we all have positive and negative in our life, in our charts, and it's all about perspective. No one's life is perfect. We all are going to die someday, and we're all going to be facing challenges in our life. And it's how you handle those challenges is really what's important. Others are more sensitive. One person might be more sensitive than the other. Some people are emotionally stronger than others. And it's just a process. At the end of the day, we're all human. And we talked about celebrities earlier. Yes, they may be rich and famous, but at the end of the day, they're still human, and they have their insecurities and problems in relationships and things like that.
And on that note, Jacy, I'm going to get you to hold on. We are going to hop out for our second and final break of the night. Our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio is Jacy Nova. Her website, astrochicks.com. Highly suggest you check it out. It's actually quite entertaining. She even got a little Kim Jong-un on there. We'll see if the little bad hair-cutted man will get the nerve up to press the button or not. We're also going to check into the paranormal side of everything with Jacy as well. And, of course, your questions, space travelers. That's what we do. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back with hour number 3 right after this.
We're getting strange on Saturday nights. Hi there, this is Dave Cruz, and each Saturday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I will take you on a tour of the weird and obtuse on Spaced Out Saturdays, from aliens to Sasquatch and every tinfoil hat in between. We got you covered. Join us at spacedoutradio.com for Spaced Out Saturdays. See you there.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Would you like someone you can trust to look into it? We have just the place. The SOR Sightlines Report is the place for you to find answers. Whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, ghosts, aliens, or anything strange, the Sightlines Report will get you connected with one of our expert researchers to find out what's going on. All of your personal information is kept 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report, a place for you to find the answers you need. Only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, we're calling it a mystery show because Mike Morin from Haunted Crew of Canada has to take care of some personal issues with his family tomorrow, so I don't have anything booked as of yet, which is very, very rare for me. So we're just going to paste something together and see where it goes. I'll know tomorrow what we're going to do, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. And hey, you know me, so you know it should be somewhat interesting, so I hope you join us as well. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. Great to have you with us. We are also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Kinnick is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you could do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect live with me during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also join us for live chat on Spaced Out Radio at the SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook. We're also on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. You can listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States, TalkStream Live, tune us in on TuneIn, download this show, as well as subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. You can also rock out to some Bumblefoot. Shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. If you haven't picked up a Spaced Out Radio t-shirt yet, what are you waiting for? You should have one. You can also watch UFO Seekers, Contact TV videos, and read The Encounter online, where my blog is hiding as well. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. For the final time tonight, we introduce Jacy Nova. Her website is astrochicks.com. Talking everything astrology tonight. Jacy, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I'm having a wonderful time.
I should hope so. Otherwise, that would really suck, wasting your time like that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And, yes.
Okay.
Stars are coming together.
Excellent. We are aligned here on Spaced Out Radio tonight, if we could use that term, with Jacy Nova. So if you have any questions in the chat rooms, you know what to do. And I'm going to start this off with a question from Kevin. And he's got just a fantastic beard. It's hanging down about 12 inches, this beard. It's a good photo of him. I like a good beard like that. And I'm always willing to praise a good beard. Kevin is asking, Jacy, are you a religious person as well?
I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. I believe in angels, heaven, hell. But I also believe in reincarnation. I was baptized Lutheran as a child, but I don't attend any specific church, but I try to live my life based on spiritual principles. And I really try to connect with people on a spiritual level, and hopefully we can come together spiritually on a conscious level and kind of move the world in a more positive direction, since things seem a little crazy right now.
Do you see that craziness in the astrological signs starting to slow down, or are we still in for running the gamut of not knowing what the hell is going on this planet?
Well, Pluto's in Capricorn right now for probably the next 2 to 3 years, so I think for the next 2 years it's going to be pretty bumpy, like it has been. But it also really shakes out people. It pushes people to be more passionate about their values and what's important to you. Is it money? Is it love? Is it family? Is it friends? If it's money, you can't take it with you. So it really pushes people to question, who am I as a person? What do I believe in? What do I want to leave this world? How do I want to leave this world behind? If you have children, how do you want to raise your kids? What ideas do you want them to have? And it's challenging, but at the same time, it's nice to see that so many people are very passionate about their beliefs and coming together to try to help each other. And sometimes when there's chaos, it can bring people together, but it also can push people apart.
Mm-hmm. Follow-up question from Kevin. Does that make you omnistic?
I guess. I don't know. Does it? I don't. That's a good question. I'm a mixture of a background. I'm part Native American, so I would like to say that it's part of my heritage. So yeah, I guess. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that.
Before the break, we were talking about positive and negative traits when it comes to astrological signs. Do some signs figure in more negativity than positivity, or is it all on free will?
I think all is free will. I mean, whatever goes up must come down. There's always the positive and the negative in any situation, and we need all types of people to make this world function on a daily basis. But I think it's important for people to take responsibility for their actions, also to push themselves on a spiritual basis to, what was I supposed to learn from this? If a relationship ends, how did I grow? Or maybe you stayed in a bad relationship and you shouldn't have. Then asking yourself, why did I do it? Do I feel insecure? Do I not want to be alone? Do I lack self-esteem? Really, don't be afraid to kind of dig in and find out what makes you tick, but also the people that are around you that you love and care about. And that will help you learn and spiritually grow from that.
The reason why I ask is there are so many people out there these days, Jacy, who are in financial trouble, domestic trouble, violence trouble. They're being bullied, they're being harassed, they're being overworked in this 24/7 society, and people are having a real tough time these days trying to figure out whether they are coming or going. A lot of people believe that there is some sort of black cloud that is always falling over them, and they just can't figure out how to get out of that rut. Does the astrological sign have anything to do with what is causing a lot of negativity in people's lives? Or is it just the day-to-day rush that nobody takes the time to stop and smell the roses anymore?
When I think about negativity, I see that from an energy perspective, and I really feel like, for example, if you see people that may suffer from addictions, that's really, from a negative energy perspective, like negative entities, or just kind of like this evil, dark energy that will glom on to a person that might be more sensitive than another person. Just like from a health perspective, some people are healthier than others. Some people are born and their immune system doesn't function as properly as the next person. So to me, it's about positive and negative energy, and it's the battle between good and evil. And I always try to come from a spiritual perspective. And when I look at someone's astrological chart, for example, I think lots of times earth signs, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo, can at times be more resilient than say maybe a water sign, unless it's a Scorpio, because they approach a problem from a practical point of view of like, okay, what's the problem? What are the steps that I need to do to fix it? Okay, let's get this done. and then they just kind of work through it. Whereas if you have a lot of water in your chart, you might just become emotionally overwhelmed and kind of fall down the rabbit hole of like, oh my God, this happened. And, oh, what if I do this and I do that? No, I'm going to lose my house and I'm going to lose my job. And then you just become so emotionally overwhelmed that it may be harder for you to work through something than maybe somebody else.
Because a lot of people whom I've talked to, they are so frustrated with life right now. Do you notice that as well? And people are scared. They're scared of their safety. They're scared of being fired. They're scared of the debt that they are carrying, whether or not they own a house. They're absolutely petrified with prices continuing to go up, yet their salary seems to remain the same. I mean, these are life-altering questions for a lot of people who are searching for some sort of answer. How do you, as an astrologist or an intuitive, help people to calm down, to make them feel that, they can get through this, they will get through this emotional time?
Well, I definitely agree that all of us on a global scale are going through some really difficult challenges from on a global perspective with war and also from a financial perspective that we don't have the same stability that, say, our family members might have had 50 years ago. Our values have changed. Now people are instantly connected through social media. People tend to become, they're saying, like, if you're looking at straight from like a human perspective, now that social media is so prevalent and social networking, people spend more time interacting with their phones and interacting with their desktops than they do with actually each other. And instead of picking up the phone and calling a friend, you're texting them instead. And at the end of the day, we all need human connection and human interaction and need to communicate with each other to feel that empathy and to feel that connection with each other. So that sense of community, I can only speak from what I see where I live in California. I can see in certain aspects it has eroded. Now, I feel a bigger sense of community. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon, there than maybe I might feel in San Francisco. Maybe to me, San Francisco, a lot of smart people, very tech-centric, but it's super money-oriented now. So the more money-oriented you become and less spiritual, people start to care less, and it's all about making money. It's not about the little guy or the person or the mom and pop store, where I find in other places they value those human connections. And I really believe that we as human beings can change the world on a consciousness level if we get back to the basics. And when I look at astrology, to me, that's taking it to the basics. Like, okay, here we go. Here's your positive and your negative. This is what's going on astrologically. Here are the aspects of your personality. Here's areas that you can develop that maybe you haven't thought about. Here's a couple challenges coming up over the next 2 to 3 years. Here's how you can work through it. And I think people just need a sense of purpose, a sense of guidance. I think at the end of the day, when we leave this world, it's all about love and your relationships with others. And, you have to decide yourself what's important to you when you leave this world. Do you want it just to be about money, or do you want to make the world a better place?
I have to go off topic for a second because I was going to try and type an answer into the chat room. Dawn is asking, geez, Dave, are you getting that cold? And the answer is no. No, the reason why I sound a little stuffy tonight is every night before I come down into the studio to work, my little guy and I have a wrestling match. And today he bopped me in the nose. And I think he broke my nose, to be absolutely honest. We were wrestling and he threw his hand up and my nose just happened to be there. So I'm sounding a little stuffed up because of that. I had to put my nose back into place. See, I've broken my nose enough now where it doesn't hurt anymore, if that makes any sense.
How did you break your nose before?
Let's just say that it was one hell of a good hockey fight.
Oh, okay.
And then a hockey fight before that, and a hockey fight before that. So I've broken my nose like 3 or 4 times, and so my nose is a little, excuse me, my nose is a little stuffy right now. So I didn't want to type all that out. I figured I would just get it out in the show. So that's why I'm sounding a little clogged up, shall we speak. Stuffy. That's the word I was looking for. Let's get to Kevin's question here, and he is asking, are some astrological signs more prone to negative events or experiences?
Well, that's a good question. I've found that when I see people that have a lot of chaos in their life or negative experiences, I will see what they call a square. It's usually to their moon or their Mars. It's their emotions or how they think and feel. That can show insecurity. It can show anger. It can show accidents. A lot of different aspects in a person's chart. I'm actually working on a book right now that's called Death by Misadventure, and it's the supernatural look at the mysterious death of 33 rock stars. So I looked at multiple rock stars' deaths and tried to look at certain aspects of rock stars that have died either through a car accident, or it could be through addiction, or even tragically through suicide. And I could see astrologically certain key planets in their chart time and time again. Scorpio was a common theme. Moon square Saturn, which represents insecurity or conflict with authoritative figures or possibly parents. And so I'm looking at each one's individual astrological chart and looking at their personality, why they became famous, and then what happened to them astrologically at that moment in time, and really come from more of a paranormal perspective or supernatural perspective of what led to their death and what that actually meant.
All right, let's move on to another question here. This one comes from Sandra. Do families have common signs? Like mine, there are a lot of Virgos and Sagittariuses.
Yeah, I think that I have noticed that you'll see that in common in my own family. My mom was born on August 30th, my grandpa 31st. I was born on September 2nd, my uncle September 2nd, and my other uncle September 21st. So there was like 5 Virgos in the family. So yes, I do see that as a common theme, and I find that incredibly fun and interesting.
Do you believe that astrology also ties into the popularity of what we've seen the last 10, 12 years of the paranormal?
I think for me, what I've noticed is the paranormal that has really kind of fueled it is the show, the popular show we discussed earlier, Ghost Hunters, was definitely kind of opened up the door for hauntings, but I also think for UFO sightings and people more coming forward that have or contactees has really kind of fueled people being more interested. Also, I think social media has really helped because people have more of an opportunity to connect with others that are interested in the paranormal and like to share stories, or you can find out what's happening around the world. And so I think it's just fueled the interest in it.
Mm-hmm. The reason why I ask is there is so much going on with the paranormal, and, you know, there are so many different ways to investigate now. I'm wondering if a lot of the experiences that people have are starting to turn into something that could be astrological with the spirits that they are dealing with. Let's say a spirit, hypothetically, is a Capricorn, and that person is a Capricorn. Could it enhance any sort of communication?
I think that's definitely a possibility. I think that if spirits are connecting with us on the other side, it could be, say, it's a family member or an old friend. I also think that when you're in a particular house or a building, that if there's been a death there or there's a spirit that's had an emotional attachment to a particular place or location, that energy imprint is left there. And then I really think it comes down to the individual that's having the experience. Are you open to being contacted by spirits? Are you emotionally and spiritually open to have that type of conversation or contact or those type of experiences? Because spirits, and it's my belief, will naturally be drawn to people that are open to it. That's why lots of times children will see things that maybe adults won't see because they're open and awake to it.
Do you like working with children when it comes to their signs and or the paranormal?
I really enjoy working with kids. I enjoy hearing the stories that they tell, or I might ask them what they think and feel about individuals, situations, what they like, dislike, but also looking at their astrological chart. I think I can help parents understand the personality of their child, what their positive traits are, what might be some negative aspects, and how they can help their child really use all their tools in the toolbox to be the best person that they can be. And then I also think that parents find it really fun and interesting to learn more about each child's personality.
Do you think, though, that there should be an age when people start working with children? Because there seems to be some debate that we shouldn't really work with kids until they are older, but there are some gifted children out there who need the help.
I think that who's ever working with children, I think it's important to have someone that's really experienced, an experienced teacher, working with children that may show psychic or intuitive gifts. You also have to be conscious that when there's spirits involved, there's positive and negative spirits. You want to be able to protect your child. And I think you kind of have to sense whether or not the child is open to it. If the child gets scared or they're crying or they start having nightmares, then that's maybe, you should take a break from it. But I think you have to, every child is different and every parent is different, and you kind of have to do it on a case-by-case basis.
No, absolutely. And, coming from someone who has children who are gifted in their own ways on a psychic or spiritual level, I can honestly say that the best thing that I ever did as a father was I told my kids I believed them when they told me something happened. And I think a lot of parents out there, they're very quick to process it as imagination or as just childhood fantasy. Like a lot of kids seem to have a friend who is imaginary, but is that friend really imaginary? And, we as parents have to be able to decipher what is actually happening and what isn't. And that should be part of our job, right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And the fact that you will believe your child's going to feel more comfortable to tell you as they grow older if something happens, whether it's spiritually or if it's just something at school. They'll feel comfortable enough to share what's going on with their life, but also at the same time, it will enhance their intuitive abilities as they get older.
So when it comes to children, is there certain signs that you think parents should watch out for?
Just based on my experience doing readings, children that I've found to be naturally intuitive tend to be either water signs or have water in their chart. So that's Scorpio, Cancer, Pisces. At the same time, they are usually more sensitive. So they could pick up on other people's feelings and emotions. So helping them decipher between what are their actual feelings and maybe them just being empathetic towards another person. So those are things to think about, and just finding ways to help your child stay grounded. Also being aware of the other children that are around them. I think a lot of kids that I have found that have special psychic gifts will naturally tend to feel different and maybe stand out from others. And so sometimes helping them work through that and letting them know that it's a gift and it doesn't make them strange. It just makes them special. Just like someone might be a fantastic baseball player, another one, might be super great at math. So it's a gift that they have that they should try to develop and cherish at the same time.
Do you find that kids are easy to work with?
Gosh, it depends on the child. Every child is different. And I think I would only want to work with a child if it's something that they're interested in and they want to do it. But I think a lot of kids are naturally curious. And if you make it interactive, there's, fun interactive ESP type games. Even there's like ESP apps where it's almost like a card game and you look at the card and you have to guess, is it a circle or a square or a stripe? And these are actual types of games that they use in scientific tests. So that's fun ways to help your child enhance their intuitive ability. So make it interactive and fun, then I think they'd probably be more open to learning.
Let's get to a question from Heather. She is asking, in your opinion, Jacy, why do some people see spirits and others never have an experience?
I think it comes down to being spiritually open to it. But I would find that usually I can look at someone's chart, like earlier, I think the last hour, one of your listeners had been diagnosed with depression and she was a Leo. And I said, oh, well, then she probably, I would assume she has like Moon in Pisces or Moon in Scorpio. And when I looked at her chart, she has Moon in Pisces. So I will see a theme in people's charts over and over again. So usually people that are open to these type of psychic experiences tend to have a lot of water in their chart, which would be Pisces, Scorpio, or Cancer, or they have planets in their 12th house, which 12th house is the subconscious mind. So I would just look at their chart. And then other people are just more grounded and they just want to focus on what's right in front of them and may not be interested in having those type of experiences, which is fine as well.
Do you think there is a correlation between everything spiritual from paranormal experiences to even going as far as alien abduction?
Well, I think that's a question I would like to ask you as well. From an alien abduction perspective, I don't have a lot of experience from that perspective, but I'm definitely very interested in it. And to me, it would seem like from a psychic perspective that certain people have had these experiences because maybe they're more sensitive or they're more open to the experience. I'm curious, do you have an opinion on that?
I think there's a tie-in between the two. I just haven't figured out what it is yet. I think there is something between the two. I'm wondering, though, out of the people you have read for who may have also been alien abductees, do you think that maybe their sign has something to do with them being taken or having some sort of contact?
Well, if I looked at it strictly from an astrological perspective, and that might be a really interesting way to do some research of looking at people that have been abducted and looking at their astrological chart and seeing if there's any aspects. But I would say that it's more, for example, someone that has a lot of planets and air signs where it's more of an intellectual experience. that maybe there's something about the way you think or the way you process experiences may be interesting to an alien of their wanting to study how we think and feel. So that's a really interesting aspect, and I bet you would find a pattern for sure, that there would be some certain particular sign or astrological aspect that correlated to that experience.
So have you ever dealt with a lot of extraterrestrial contactees or abductees?
I haven't, but I've definitely, I'm definitely interested in it. I've watched a lot of documentaries about it. I'm curious about what's going to be taking place over the next few years. I just watched a really interesting documentary. I think it's called Australian Skies on Amazon Prime, and there's a very famous abductee in Australia that is having a lot of experiences and UFO sightings. I think he's over more towards Perth. And so they hired this documentary crew to go along with him, and they were basically trying to debunk him. And by the end of the documentary, the director was so freaked out based on all the experiences they had that it was probably one of the best documentaries I've seen, and really showing for a fact of like, hey, look at what's happening in the sky. And he was having experiences of black helicopters flying over his house, government officials showing up. They actually had footage of it. So there's definitely something going on. And I think that we're going to have more and more people being open about their experiences over the next several years, and they may not feel so scared to talk about it and be much more open about it so we can learn more about it and what's actually happening.
Have you thought at all, and maybe this is something new to you, I don't know, but have you thought at all about categorizing the astrological signs of people who come to you who have been abducted before?
That is something that because we talked about it tonight, I thought, wow, that would be fascinating, because I love doing research and figuring out, is there a connection, and is there a particular reason why someone is chosen over another person? Is it because of their age? Is it because of their location? Could it be their job? I mean, there's a million reasons why it might happen, but astrologically, I definitely think that there would be some correlation, and I would find certain aspects, and maybe that might have something to do with it.
So I know this is a hypothetical question, but in your opinion, do you think there could be something statistical to show that, say, more cancers get taken than, Pisces or something along those lines? Do you think there could be something along that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, if I took 20 people that had been abducted and I had them give me their birth day and the year they were born, I would be able to look at all their charts, and I could see patterns. I would be able to collect what patterns there were, and I could come back to you and say, out of the 20 people I researched, 15 of them all had Cancer in their chart, or they all had Moon in Cancer and Venus square Mars or something along those lines. And here's the pattern. And what does that mean? Well, Moon in Cancer means that you are emotionally intuitive, and you're very open and sensitive, and you would be naturally more receptive to this type of experience, say, versus someone that is Moon in Capricorn, who is more grounded and might be more closed to those type of experiences.
I would be very interested to see if there would be anything to that.
Well, you're going to have to help me collect names and birthdays of people that have been abducted, and I would be happy to do the research and let you know if there's some interesting aspects to that.
Well, you got one Gemini on your list, so
yes,
that works.
Gemini's leading the pack.
It all starts with one, my friend. It all starts with one. But that's okay. I do believe there is something to this in regards to the spirituality connected to the paranormal, connected to the ufological and extraterrestrial. I do believe there is something about that because it just seems to be so intertwined. I don't know where, but it just seems to be so intertwined that there has to be a correlation between all of these values in order to heighten the experience or to add to it.
Well, also it could be on a vibration level too. If someone they're looking to choose certain people to be abducted, it could be based on their vibrational level or their energy level of, I don't know what your opinion is on this, but I mean, I think they pick specific people for a reason. It's not just like random, like they're calling lotto numbers or something, that I think people are selected for specific reasons.
Have you been taken?
No, I have not. Not that I'm aware of. So I'm not that I'm aware of, but I'm definitely interested and open if it were to happen. But I'm fascinated, and I love hearing people's stories and their experiences. I know for some people it's scary and terrifying, and for others perhaps different. But I do think there's a correlation between people that have been abducted. I think that there's also probably government experiments going on, and there's all kinds of things happening behind the scenes. And I think that the truth will be revealed, as they say, over the next couple of years. We'll get to learn more and more about what's happening.
Let's get to a question from Kevin here. He is asking, my daughter is 8 months old and seems, and I don't know what, sensitive to, sorry, it was a spelling mistake. My daughter is 8 months old and seems sensitive to energy. How do I foster a healthy relationship with the energies that surround her to make her more comfortable?
I think for children it's important, especially if they're incredibly sensitive, to create a soothing environment for them, and that can be anywhere from the colors of the room that they're in. There's certain colors that are more comforting than others, so that could be bedding, it could be paint on the wall. Also music. There's certain music that's more soothing than others for children. Especially I learned that when I had my son. There was certain types of music that I would listen to, and I'd put my little headphones on my belly. And it was funny later in life, he would be, he likes that it was more classical music that he enjoyed. Also children that are very sensitive, they can be sensitive to light, they can be sensitive to noise, they can be sensitive to certain individuals. So it's really important to create your home environment to have this kind of special comforting place, and a place that she can call her own, which, for example, would be her bedroom. So creating that warm, loving environment through colors, through music, also through experiences, even the type of food that she eats, and the type of people that are around her. And I think that will help her feel more comfortable, and you kind of have to play it by ear as she grows older.
Let's get to BTO's question, who is asking, if astrology is based on planets, stars, galaxies, then there must be some ETs and interdimensional connection. JC, do you have any personal ET or interdimensional connection that you would like to share?
I personally have not had any that I'm aware of, that I have had any extraterrestrial experiences. But I have had this reoccurring dream that's happened over and over again. And I don't know if your listeners have done lucid dreaming, but I have quite a few lucid dreams. And I mentioned earlier in the last hour about reincarnation and being kind of like a soul cluster. But also I have this reoccurring dream where there's this location that everyone goes to, and it's like we meet in dream time to have connections with others. So I have conversations with people that I have known in my past, in this current lifetime, that I'm no longer in contact with, but I actually connect with them on a dream plane, but also people that I haven't met, and it almost feels like they are spiritual teachers and giving advice, which in a way could be an ET or extraterrestrial experience, because these individuals almost seem like a being of light that are bringing people together to have conversations. It's almost like teachings and, okay, well, I'm having this challenge in my life. What should I do? Okay, well, you need to, this person should no longer be a part of your life, and this person is coming into your life, and you need not to be so emotional, or giving advice on daily aspects. And this has been a reoccurring dream that I've had over and over again, which I find fascinating, but I guess that could possibly be some type of experience or some type of super intelligence that is connecting with us in our dream state.
We have some questions coming from Twitter. Andrew in Vancouver is asking, do you read for corporations and organizations? And the founding date of an organization would have its own qualities, would it not?
Yes. I have read for corporations and companies, and also individual entrepreneurs and business owners on a small to a large scale. And yes, your corporation incorporation date definitely will basically tell the story of your company. One advice that I can give to your listeners is that you never want to start a business on a void of course moon. And it's always important to launch a business during a new moon phase, which usually lasts for a 2-week period. For example, October 19th, Thursday's a new moon in Libra, and that'll last for about 2 weeks. So there are different astrological aspects that you want to look at when you're starting a business. And they call it business astrology. So if some of your listeners want to do a Google search, you can take a look at it, and it'll give you aspects on what to take a look at. But the sun sign, moon, and Mercury are incredibly important. Also, the number vibration, you might want to look at it numerology-wise, what might be a good number for you. And if you want to kind of test out other companies that are successful, you can look at Google or Microsoft and see what number is assigned to that particular name. And I think you'll find a pattern. It's really fascinating. But yeah, the date that you launch your company is incredibly important to the success or non-success of your company.
Follow up with Andrew. He is asking, how did the recent eclipse affect your readings, if at all?
Well, when we did the recent eclipse, we focused really on political, basically predictions. And so when we started doing predictions, like from a political perspective, we were looking at what's going on in North America with Trump and looking at the White House. We were making certain predictions, like, for example, Sean Spicer's going to leave or Steve Bannon's going to leave. But we found with the eclipse, things were happening much more quickly than we anticipated. And it's kind of been a game changer where it's almost like he's ripped the Band-Aid off, and now everybody's kind of going crazy and feeling comfortable to say whatever they want to say without really thinking about it. And in one way, that can be incredibly positive when people are transparent and everything's out in the open. But at the same time, it can be really shocking, and it makes things feel emotionally unstable. So I feel like this last solar eclipse has been a little bit more emotionally unstable for people. It's kind of scary. People don't know what to expect. For me personally, I'm a fairly resilient person, and I just kind of power through it. And when I feel the energy is too strong, I go back to my basics of, because I'm a spiritual person, I go back to my spirituality to kind of carry me through a day that I might find upsetting on not a personal level, but on a global level where I think, wow, this is really getting intense.
Let's get to hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter, where Les is asking, Jacy, what is your favorite nebula?
My favorite nebula.
I don't think that's ever been asked on this show before.
What's your favorite nebula?
You know what? I am way too earthly to even answer that right now.
Gosh, I don't know how to answer that question. That is a good question. Is he coming from a nebula, from a dust or hydrogen, more from a scientific perspective?
Well, I don't know. He does have a Twitter picture of an alien gray, so I'm just, curious. We can move on. If you don't know either. I'm in the dark.
I don't know either.
Let's just go find a black hole and jump into it. Let's just find a black hole and jump into it. Let's get back to Andrew for a second, because he's now loading up on the questions in North Vancouver. He's wondering, do I ask another question now? Oh, what the hell? Just throw it on there on Twitter. So he's asking, does that not prove that astrology is a real science? You have a measurable moment which created an uptick in the physics?
I would agree. I think it's a science. Other people would say might think I'm crazy, but I believe that you can see patterns. If you did research like any other scientist would, and you look at someone's astrological chart, and you can see patterns of things that happen on certain days. You can look at their chart and say, oh, okay, Uranus was squaring Mars and they had a car accident, or, they died, or this person became famous. There are certain patterns that you can look at in someone's chart to make predictions of what may or may not happen. From an astrological perspective, it's supposed to be taboo to predict someone's death, but astrologers will predict like, hey, you need to be careful over the next month because it looks like, you might be more prone to an accident, or I see some health issues during this time period. I've looked at my own particular chart when I've seen Saturn square Venus in my chart. Usually that represents someone in my life leaving, either from just on a personal level or an actual physical death. I've actually seen those patterns in my own chart, and I can track that back all the way from being a small child.
This comes to another question from one of our newest listeners on Twitter, Spooky Sarah. Spooky Snowflake Sarah. Thank you, Sarah.
I like that name.
Me too. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to tune in for your first time tonight, by the way. I really do appreciate that. Hopefully you find a new home here. And she is asking, how does this time of year affect Scorpios?
Well, this particular year, Jupiter is in Scorpio now, so you're having your Jupiter return. So this overall should be a very positive time for new opportunities. It's a very fortunate period. It's very auspicious for anything that you want to do. And it could be something as, it could be education, it could be bringing new friends into your life, it could be moving, it could be exploring the paranormal. It really is a time of expansion. Also for Scorpios kind of like to dig deep and kind of figure out what's underneath the covers and look at things that maybe other people don't want to look at. And so that's a time of discovery. So I see it as a very, very positive time. And I find that most Scorpios I've met are very open, very spiritual, very thoughtful. And I have a close friend that is Scorpio, and he's really going on a sabbatical to explore himself on a spiritual level to really kind of figure out what life means for him. And that was just something recent. Jupiter hit his chart, and then he was like, bam, I'm going to go on a spiritual retreat now for 6 months. So I would say it's going to be a very positive time for Spooky Sarah.
Well, it is Halloween, so why not? The veil is thinning. It is thinning.
Yes.
So they like to say, do you buy into the whole veil thing?
I do. I do. I think that your listeners, the more they work on, the more they're involved in the paranormal and the more that they explore their spirituality or whatever they may be interested in, whether it's ETs to astrology, numerology, tarot, ghosts, whatever it might be, the veil will become thinner and your experiences can be fantastic. I found for myself, lucid dreaming. I just love lucid dreaming and the experiences that I have, and you can get questions answered about what's happening in your daily life, but also the people that you can connect with and the people that you meet. I think now is our time. And then when you see Pluto and Saturn go into Aquarius, which is 2020, I think it will start to become more mainstream.
Let's get to Everett's question in the SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook. He is asking, did having Pluto wrongly demoted from planet status affect astrology in any way?
Yes, I think a lot of astrologers were really disappointed about that. I definitely feel that Pluto is a very powerful planet within a person's chart. It's all about transformation. And when you see something tragic happen in a person's life or a big shakeup, like, oh, they had a great marriage, and then, the next day she left him for whatever, the baker or something like that. Just some weird, strange things that happen in people's life. You can usually look at their chart astrologically, and either Pluto or Uranus definitely has aspected their chart in some unexpected way that provokes people to do things they wouldn't normally do.
I never would have thought of that. I never would have thought that could have been affected in any way, the demotion. Thank you, science, screwing up astrologers all over the world. It's just the way it is. Just the way it is. Hey, you have a book coming out, or you're writing a book right now. Tell us about it.
The book, I mentioned it earlier. It's called Death by Misadventure. It's the supernatural look at the mysterious death of 33 rock stars. And the reason why I use the name Death by Misadventure, because that is what coroners actually name deaths when people die unexpectedly through, say, a car accident or by their own doing. And I wanted to look at several prominent rock stars that have passed away, and I started to see a pattern. Several have passed away through either car accidents or drownings, usually water, so lots of times have something to do with it. Also, when I looked at their astrological charts, they had strong aspects of water in their chart, either Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio. So I found it to be incredibly fascinating. So I've chosen 33 rock stars. I'm going to be looking at their astrological chart. So I will basically give an overview of their astrological chart, pointing out what aspects led to their fame and fortune, and then to the tragic demise of their life, and if there were any paranormal aspects going on at the time when they actually passed on. There was one in particular band that I'm really fascinated in, is called Viola Beach, which is, maybe a lot of people probably haven't heard of them here, but it was a really popular British indie band that had just hit the top 10, and they were at a Swedish rock festival last year. It was on February 13th, 2016, and they were leaving. They had just finished the concert. They were going back to their hotel, and in Sweden, they sometimes open the bridges at night, and I guess they didn't see it opening, and the car crashed, and it ended up killing all the members of the band, including the manager of the band. But there was a lot of kind of weird, interesting things going on astrologically in their chart on that day, and just how everything kind of unfolded, which I found incredibly fascinating. So I'm going to be including that in the book as well.
And quickly here, when do you see the release of this book? Because we're definitely going to have you back on for that.
Right now, it's looking like it's going to be in spring of 2018. So in about 6 months.
Good. You got a date here with us then, because we're going to need to know about it.
Awesome. I'll put it in my calendar.
Jacy, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. I'm going to get you to hold on. Jacy Nova's website, if you want to check it out, get a reading, see what she's up to on the gossip, it is astrochicks.com. You can also use at AstroChicks on Twitter. Check her out there as well. Little Brother is watching by Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, rocking in the background. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. He brings us in and out of every single show. Tomorrow night on the program, Mike Morin was supposed to join us with Ghosts of the Great White North. However, due to a family emergency, we're going to have a mystery show tomorrow. I won't know what's going on until literally showtime. I'll fill you in tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. I want to say thank you to my great team working behind the scenes to make this show happen, as well as all of you taking part in the chat rooms, asking your questions, sharing our tweets, our posts on social media, and just hanging out in general and being a really cool chick or cat. It works for me, because together, my friends, we own the night. We'll talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. Can you please take us home? Good night.